In Lesson 15, we really continue where we were in Lesson 14. Lesson 14, remember, was the first aorist, or the regular aorist. In Lesson 15, we have the second aorist, which is the irregular aorist. Now, that's an oversimplification, but I think for the most part it's going to be helpful to us. Second aorist is not a new tense. It's not another tense from what we've been looking at. This is still the third of the principal parts. And yet it's irregular, and that's why we're looking at it separately from chapter 14. Gar is the first vocabulary word, page 87. Gar, conjunction for, and it's post-positive. That means it will not stand first in its clause. Gar is coordinate, will not normally be used in any subordinate way. So it will be coordinating two independent clauses. Elevon, I threw, or I cast, is the aorist of valo. Notice that valo has two lambdas. Outside of the present system, you will not have two lambdas, only the one. Elevon, I threw. Eunomen, I became. Eunomen, I became, is the second aorist of yiname, irregular, of course. Edon, I saw, is the second aorist of vlepo, second aorist of orao. Machen says vlepo may be the source of edon. I think rather orao. The aorist of vlepo is evlepsa, so the first aorist. So I take edon to be the second aorist of orao. Epon is the second aorist of lego. Now you'll see those two look very much alike. Edon, I saw, and epon, I said. Now probably if you look at the two lines there, edon, I saw, has one D, the delta. Epon, I said, has one D in the word said. You must have one D. You may not have more than one. So if you said edon, I said, that would be two Ds. One in the Greek word, one in the English word. If you said epon, I saw, you'd have neither D. So that wouldn't be right. So edon, I saw, epon, I said, second aorist of lego. Elevon, I took, is the second aorist of lambano. Egagon, I led, second aorist of ago. Ilthon, I came or I went, second aorist of erkame. Ininka, I bore or I brought, is the first aorist of pharaoh, very irregular. Lipo is the word I leave. The second aorist of lipo is elipon. Now in the second aorist, the irregular, we will use this word lipo instead of leo. Of course, leo is regular. We can't use it in the second aorist or in the irregular. So lipo becomes our representative verb. And we'll see elipon in the exercises and in the forms. Opsome, I shall see, the future, deponent future of orao. Again, orao rather than blepo. Pipto, I fall, second aorist, epison, I fell. And prospero, I bring to, is it takes the accusative of the thing brought and the dative of the person to whom it is brought, and that's exactly what you'd think. So don't let that bother you. That's a normal thing. It's the expected. Now those are the irregulars. Those are the second aorists, the third principal part of these irregular verbs. Now, let me point up something that Machen does. Paragraph 188, he says it cannot be determined beforehand whether a verb is going to have a first aorist or a second aorist, or if the second aorist, if it is second aorist, what form that second aorist will take. These matters have to be settled by examination of a lexicon or by learning it, simply learning what it is. You don't know whether Leo is going to be Elisa or whatever, but that's something you'll have to learn. We memorize principal parts for that reason. Now, the forms of the second aorist, as I said, are built on the stem of lipo. And paragraph 193, you see elipon, and 194, you see elipomen, and we'll look at those on the board behind me here. Elipon, notice this is a very regular, the very same as we've had before in the imperfects. On es omen et theon, just exactly like you had with Elion. So on es omen et theon, and then for the middle, not the passive, just the middle, For the middle, it'd be min, u, to, meta, sta, undo. And we'll learn those in this fashion, leaving out the variable vowel, except here where it's contracted. Min, u, to, meta, sta, undo. Now, as I said, we've had these before in the imperfects. Now, if you look at your workbook on page 23, you'll see the place for these forms. We already have the active, we have the present and the future on the primary side, and on the secondary side we already have the imperfects, active, middle, and passive. You have those filled in. We had the first aorist last time, active and middle, not the passive yet. And now we're working on the second aorist of lipo, elipone here, elipomene here, in this one. Don't fill in the passive. We'll get that in lesson 16. So fill those in, and you'll notice that these endings are exactly the same as these. Same endings, same variable vowel and everything there. Now, you'll need to fill the principal parts in, and you'll need to fill in the characteristics, so let me give you those here on the board. The characteristics, this is on page 24, and then add omine. Again. Now, augment, remember, augment. Second aorist stem. Second aorist stem. We're no longer working on the present stem. Second aorist stem. Variable vowel and secondary active endings. And then this one. Again, this is the middle now, not the passive, just the middle. Augment, second aorist stem, variable vowel, and secondary, middle, or passive endings. Okay, you got those written in on page 23, on 24. And then we want to talk a little bit more about the principal parts, which are on the chart over here. Principal parts. This will be on your page 28. You see the forms here. We already had this up before, and now we can see better the irregular verbs. We have the present, unime, future, unissime, aorist, active, eunomine. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to go with the perfect and the perfect active, perfect middle. We'll see that when we come back to it. But for now, learn these, list all of these. Right down the line, list all of those on page 28, and then, as we indicated, look in the back of your book in Machen and fill those principal parts in and be using them as vocabulary words. It'll help you in your vocabulary. You'll have some of these already from lesson 13, some already now from lesson 15, and then we'll get some from lesson 29 and some more from lesson 16. So fill those in and have it available, learn it, bring out the cards, the vocabulary cards. And I think that will be helpful in understanding this first and second aorist. Now, the rest of what Machen says in his chapter is simply more of what I've been saying here. He's showing the characteristics, telling you why it's an augment, that kind of thing. So we won't go over that. You read it, and then incorporate that in what I've already told you here. And when we come back next time, we'll be coming to lesson 29. So learn your vocabulary and forms. That is just the indicative forms for lesson 29, and we'll discuss that in the next lesson.